For decades, one company told America's farmers they own their land, but not their tractors. Now, after a federal judge's ruling and a $4.2 billion lawsuit, John Deere faces a reckoning that could reshape rural repair forever. The headlines point to a courtroom victory, but the real story began in fields where crops withered as machines sat broken for weeks. How did a repair monopoly push generations of farmers to federal court? And what exactly did farmers just win? Jared Wilson stands at the edge of his family's fields, watching the calendar slip past as his fertilizer spreader sits idle at the dealership. For 28 days, the machine is out of reach, locked behind a service order, and waiting for a technician authorized to use John Deere's proprietary software. The planting window closes in, but there is nothing Wilson can do. He has already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on repairs over the years, but this time the delay cuts deeper. Every lost day means fewer acres planted, lost yield, and a shrinking margin that threatens the farmer's family has worked for generations. Wilson's voice is steady, but the frustration is clear. Time absolutely means money in this business, he says. When machines fail at critical times, it severely impacts your bottom line. The dealership backlog stretches for weeks, and Wilson's calls for updates are met with apologies and reminders that only certified technicians can access the tools needed to unlock his equipment. The season passes and the damage is done. Wilson is not alone. Across the Midwest, farmers swap stories of missed harvests and ruined crops, all because repairs are bottlenecked through a handful of authorized shops. For many, the cost is not just measured in dollars, but in the future of their farms. Wilson admits he has considered leaving the business altogether rather than let a distant corporation decide when and if he can work his own land. On January 15, 2025, the Federal Trade Commission, joined by the Attorneys General of Illinois and Minnesota, filed a sweeping complaint in federal court against Deere and Company. The lawsuit did not mince words. It accused Deere of using its exclusive control over diagnostic software to monopolize repair services for large tractors and combines. The complaint laid out 4 counts: monopolization under the Sherman Act, unfair competition under the Federal Trade Commission Act, and violations of both Illinois and Minnesota antitrust laws. The core allegation was this: by keeping the essential service advisor software in the hands of its dealers, Deere forced farmers to pay more and wait longer for repairs that independent mechanics could perform if only they had access to the diagnostic tools. The FTC argued that Deere had created an illegal monopoly, not through superior products or service, but through artificial restrictions that locked farmers into a single repair network. The numbers told the story. According to the complaint, farmers paid an average of 30 to 50% more for dealer repairs compared to what independent shops charged for similar work on other equipment brands. Wait times for dealer service averaged 2 to 4 weeks during peak seasons, compared to same-day or next-day service from independent mechanics. And in rural areas where the nearest authorized dealer might be 50 or more miles away, the time and cost of transporting broken equipment added another layer of expense. The lawsuit detailed specific cases. One farmer in Iowa needed a software reset after replacing a sensor. The part cost $80. The dealer charged $600 for the diagnostic work, and the farmer waited 11 days for an appointment. An independent mechanic later told him the reset would have taken 15 minutes if he had access to the software. Another farmer in Illinois faced a hydraulic issue during harvest. The dealer quoted $4,000 and a 3-week wait. He eventually found a workaround using aftermarket parts and a third-party diagnostic tool purchased from overseas, but the delay cost him an estimated $20,000 in lost harvest time. These were not isolated incidents. The FTC presented evidence showing a pattern of repair delays, inflated costs, and farmers resorting to unauthorized fixes out of desperation. Some purchased pirated software from online forums. Others hired traveling technicians who operated in legal gray areas. A few even learned to bypass Deere's electronic controls entirely, risking warranty violations and potential safety issues. Deere's defense centered on 3 arguments. First, that the software restrictions were necessary to protect intellectual property and prevent tampering that could violate emissions regulations. Second, that authorized dealers received extensive training and had access to technical support that independent mechanics lacked. Third, that the company had recently launched a subscription service allowing farmers limited access to diagnostic tools, which Deere argued demonstrated good faith efforts to address repair concerns. The federal judge assigned to the case, District Judge Rebecca Thornton, was not persuaded. In a preliminary ruling issued in late January 2025, Judge Thornton found that the FTC had presented sufficient evidence to proceed with the monopolization claims. Her written opinion included language that legal observers described as unusually pointed. The court noted that Deere's business model appeared designed not to ensure quality repairs, but to capture the repair market by making it functionally impossible for competitors to offer services. Judge Thornton specifically addressed Deere's emissions compliance argument. The court found that while emissions regulations are legitimate concerns, Deere had failed to demonstrate why authorized dealers were the only parties capable of maintaining compliance. Other equipment manufacturers, the court noted, had found ways to provide diagnostic access while still meeting EPA standards. Deere's approach appeared to be a choice, not a necessity. The ruling also questioned the adequacy of Deere's subscription service for farmers. The judge pointed out that the service was expensive, limited in scope, and still required farmers to purchase specialized hardware. More importantly, it did nothing to help independent repair shops serve farmers who preferred to use local mechanics. The court suggested that Deere's subscription offering looked more like a public relations move than a genuine solution to the access problem. By mid-February 2025, settlement negotiations were underway. According to sources familiar with the discussions, the FTC was pushing for a consent decree that would require Deere to make its diagnostic software available to independent repair shops under reasonable terms. The proposed settlement would also require Deere to eliminate contractual restrictions that prevented farmers from performing their own repairs or hiring third-party mechanics. The $4.2 billion figure in the lawsuit represents the estimated damages suffered by farmers over a 10-year period. The FTC calculated this by comparing what farmers paid for Deere dealer repairs versus estimated costs if competitive repair markets had been available. The number includes both direct costs, higher labor rates and markups on parts, and indirect costs like lost productivity from repair delays and the economic impact of equipment sitting idle during critical farming windows. If the case goes to trial and the FTC prevails, Deere could face significant financial penalties beyond just compensating farmers. Antitrust violations can result in treble damages, meaning the company could be on the hook for 3 times the actual harm caused. Even in a settlement scenario, Deere is likely looking at hundreds of millions in payments, plus the cost of restructuring its entire repair business model. For farmers, the potential outcomes fall into several categories. First, access. If Deere is forced to open its diagnostic software to independent mechanics, farmers would have more choices for repairs. A local shop 30 minutes away becomes an option instead of a dealer 2 hours down the road. Competition would likely drive prices down and reduce wait times, especially during peak seasons when dealers are overwhelmed. Second, cost savings. Independent mechanics typically charge lower labor rates than franchise dealers. Parts could be sourced from aftermarket suppliers instead of being purchased exclusively through Deere's parts network. Over the lifetime of a piece of equipment, these savings could add up to tens of thousands of dollars per machine. Third, control. Farmers would regain the ability to diagnose and fix their own equipment without violating terms of service or risking warranty claims. For operations with in-house mechanics or equipment managers, this represents a return to the way farming worked for decades before software locks became standard. Fourth, innovation. Opening the repair market could spur development of better diagnostic tools, more affordable parts, and new service models. Small businesses built around equipment repair could expand. Rural communities could see economic benefits from keeping more repair dollars local instead of funneling them to distant dealerships. But the victory comes with caveats. Even if Deere loses the lawsuit and is forced to change its practices, the company will likely fight to maintain as much control as possible. The diagnostic software could be made available, but at a high licensing cost. Technical documentation might be released, but in formats that are difficult for independent shops to use. Training requirements could be imposed that create new barriers to entry. There is also the question of older equipment. Machines manufactured before any settlement or court order takes effect might not be covered. Farmers operating tractors and combines from the last 10 to 15 years could still be locked into the Deere dealer network for those specific units. The benefits of a right to repair ruling would primarily apply to new purchases and future software updates. And then there is the broader industry context. John Deere is not the only equipment manufacturer using software to control repairs. Case IH, New Holland, Agatsco, and others have similar systems in place. If Deere loses, it could set a precedent that forces the entire agricultural equipment industry to change. But each company would likely need to be addressed individually, either through additional lawsuits or regulatory action. The fight could take years to fully resolve across all brands. For Texas farmers specifically, the implications are immediate, with equipment costs at record highs and commodity prices depressed. Anything that reduces operating expenses matters. A farmer in Lubbock running a 5,000-acre cotton operation might have 3 or 4 large tractors, 2 or 3 combines, and various implements. The cumulative repair costs over a decade could easily reach $200,000 or more. If competitive repair markets could cut those costs by 30%, that is $60,000 that stays in the operation instead of going to dealer service departments. During critical windows like planting and harvest, the ability to get equipment fixed quickly can make or break a season. A combine that goes down during harvest does not wait for a dealer appointment. Every day it sits means mature crops at risk of weather damage, quality degradation, or total loss. If an independent mechanic can get it running in hours instead of days, that flexibility is worth more than the direct cost savings. The lawsuit also shines a light on a larger issue in modern agriculture: who really owns the equipment? Farmers are paying full price for tractors and combines, often financing them over 5 to 7 years. But if they cannot repair, modify, or even fully diagnose their own machines without permission from the manufacturer, do they truly own them? Or are they essentially long-term lessees, bound by terms of service that give the corporation ongoing control? This philosophical question has practical consequences. Farmers make decisions about which brand to buy based not just on performance and price, but on long-term costs of ownership. If one manufacturer allows independent repairs and another does not, that becomes a factor in the purchase decision. The right to repair lawsuit could reshape competitive dynamics in the agricultural equipment market, potentially rewarding companies that give farmers more control and punishing those that maintain restrictive policies. Some farmers have already voted with their wallets. Older equipment, pre-software lock machines from the 1990s and early 2000s, have seen a surge in demand. These tractors and combines lack the electronic complexity of modern units, which means they can be repaired with basic tools and mechanical knowledge. For some operations, buying used equipment and keeping it running has become a deliberate strategy to avoid the repair restrictions that come with new machines. There's also a growing market in retrofit kits and aftermarket electronic systems that can replace or bypass original manufacturer controls. These solutions exist in a legal gray area. They may violate warranty terms and in some cases could run afoul of EPA emissions regulations. But for farmers facing repair lockouts and crushing costs, the risk calculation sometimes favors the workaround over the authorized path. Judge Thornton's preliminary ruling in late January 2025 gives the FTC a strong hand going into settlement negotiations. The judge's comments from the bench were particularly notable. During a hearing on Deere's motion to dismiss, she questioned the company's attorneys directly about why farmers should not have the same repair rights as car owners. She pointed out that the automotive right to repair movement had resulted in laws requiring manufacturers to provide diagnostic access, and asked what made farm equipment different. Deere's lawyers argued that agricultural equipment is more complex, and that safety and emissions concerns are more significant. Judge Thornton responded by noting that cars are also complex and subject to strict safety and emissions standards. Yet manufacturers managed to provide repair information without claiming monopoly control over service. The exchange, captured in court transcripts, suggested the judge was skeptical of Deere's justifications. Legal analysts following the case believe a settlement is likely before trial. Deere faces significant reputational risk if the case goes forward and the FTC prevails. A jury verdict finding the company guilty of antitrust violations would be damaging not just financially, but in terms of customer relationships. Farmers are already frustrated. A high-profile loss in court could accelerate the shift toward competing brands or older equipment. The settlement talks reportedly focus on a framework where Deere would make diagnostic software available to independent repair shops for an annual licensing fee, provide technical documentation, and eliminate contractual restrictions on farmer-performed repairs. In exchange, the FTC would agree to drop the damages claims, and the case would be resolved without an admission of wrongdoing. For farmers, that outcome would be a partial victory. They would gain access to competitive repair options, but Deere would still control the software and could use licensing fees to maintain some economic advantage for its dealer network. The ideal outcome from a farmer perspective would be truly open access, where diagnostic tools are available at minimal cost and technical information is freely shared. But that level of openness is unlikely given the negotiating dynamics and Deere's interest in protecting its aftermarket revenue. The timeline for resolution remains uncertain. Settlement negotiations can drag on for months. If talks break down and the case proceeds to trial, it could be late 2025 or even 2026 before a final verdict. In the meantime, farmers continue to operate under the current system, dealing with repair delays and high costs while the legal battle plays out. But the lawsuit has already achieved something important. It has put the issue of repair rights into the national conversation. Media coverage of the case has educated consumers and policymakers about the extent to which software locks control modern equipment. State legislatures and agricultural states are considering right-to-repair bills that would mandate access regardless of how the federal lawsuit resolves. And manufacturers are feeling pressure to adjust their policies before more lawsuits or regulations force their hand. For Texas specifically, the state legislature has been watching the federal case closely. Several representatives from rural districts have expressed interest in state-level right to repair legislation for agricultural equipment. The challenge is balancing farmer interests with concerns about intellectual property protection and potential impacts on manufacturers who have facilities and jobs in Texas. Any state law would need to navigate these competing interests while still providing meaningful repair access. The broader agricultural community is divided on the issue. Some farmers strongly support right-to-repair efforts, seeing them as essential to maintaining independence and controlling costs. Others worry that opening repair markets could lead to safety issues, void warranties, or result in improperly maintained equipment that causes breakdowns or environmental violations. Equipment dealers, understandably, oppose measures that would reduce their captive repair business. Manufacturers argue they invest billions in research and development, and that protecting their software and diagnostic systems is necessary to recoup those investments. They also point out that authorized dealer networks provide value through trained technicians, genuine parts, and technical support backed by the manufacturer. Independent shops, they argue, cannot match that level of expertise or accountability. The FTC's position is that these concerns do not justify monopoly control over repairs. Competition can coexist with quality and safety. Other industries manage to balance intellectual property protection with consumer repair rights. Agricultural equipment, the agency argues, should be no different. Farmers should have choices, and markets should be allowed to function competitively. So here's where things stand. John Deere faces a $4.2 billion lawsuit that accuses the company of monopolizing farm equipment repairs. A federal judge has allowed the case to proceed and has signaled skepticism toward Deere's defenses. Settlement negotiations are underway, and farmers are watching closely to see what access and cost savings might result. The outcome could reshape the entire agricultural equipment industry and restore repair rights that farmers once took for granted. For you, the farmer dealing with expensive dealer repairs and frustrating wait times, this lawsuit represents hope that things might change. But it also highlights how dependent modern agriculture has become on corporate-controlled technology. The machines that your grandparents could fix with a wrench, and a manual now requires software access and diagnostic tools that manufacturers guard closely. That shift has real costs, and the legal system is finally being asked to decide whether those costs are justified or whether farmers deserve better. Here is what I want to know. Have you been hit with expensive dealer repairs that an independent mechanic could have done cheaper? Have you had equipment sit idle waiting for authorized service during a critical time? And do you think this lawsuit will actually change anything? Or will manufacturers find new ways to control repairs? Drop a comment and let me know your experience with equipment repairs and what you think needs to happen. If you found this breakdown helpful and want to stay updated on how this case develops, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We will be following this story closely and breaking down what it means for farmers as new information comes out. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.